I might lose my job during the recession. How can I income-proof my investments?
Look, there's a whole lot of government benefits, right? So when we sort of say, I may lose my job, right? So the first thing what one needs to do is that the things that we can control and the things that we can't control, right? So everything we do within our capabilities into sort of say, you know what, now the time is tough, we just need to do at a bare minimum just that bit extra. And that's a discussion which I had with a lot of younger people this morning. And I said, this is the time where we see the grown-up people as opposed to the young kids as such, right? Let's do all the right thing, absolutely everything within our ability to keep the job. That's number one. Now, number two, if we are unfortunate to be in a profession where, yes, perhaps it's the profession which sort of brings in as part of the necessity, is to understand loud and clear that are we losing the job or have we been stood out? And there was a difference. And the stood out means that, yes, I'm still on the employment as such, but it's just that a short period of time my role is not required, whether it is a front desk reception level of role as such, right? So that's a bit that we sort of understand. There are some enormous level of government benefits being provided at the moment, right? And we name it. So we sort of say from the government's point of view is that the government is providing that $750 a week, $1,500 sort of a fortnight. Government is handing out that $750 this side of the June as well as the other side of the June. Now, some of the benefits from the Centrelink side of it has increased, from the pensioner side of it, or people who are at the age of that pensioner side of it, is that the government pension sort of has increased as well. So there are various different ways that the government is trying to provide the incentive. Now, James and I asked, we were spoken previously that the banks are chipping in from their point of view. Yeah. Is that whether that is a 6 month sort of a deferment that the banks are sort of providing. This is the time, in my opinion, that you sit down, you look through and you say that what are all the different options that I have and which one is practical from my end.
On top of that, as an investor, there's a big chance that, you have a government support there from negative gearing or other depreciation. And when you do a calculation on an owner-occupier property, then an investment, and touch wood, you have a tenant as well giving you the rent, during the time, and the government supporting you not only this way, but from the tax point of view, it's going to cost you a lot lesser to secure your future than having your own property. Sometimes that's more in trouble than.
And the other incentive, right? So one of the other incentive, Jack, as an example, that this $10,000 superannuation that one can draw down.
Yes.
And that 10,000 sort of comes in prior to 30th of June and 10,000 comes in after 30th of June. And the condition that the government sort of suggested that if the revenue salary drops more than 20%, or if the working hour has dropped more than 20%, one can be eligible to draw down up to 10,000 from the superannuation fund as tax-free.
Yes.
Now, do I suggest that we do it? I still sort of say super as my retirement. I'd like to keep that as a retirement for a longer period of time, but nonetheless is an option.
I think it's really important. I mean, all of this is absolutely spot on. But even to simplify that further, in Australia, the property market makes up the majority of ordinary people's wealth. Right? We have some share investment, we have some particularly wealthy people with large companies, but the majority of everyday Australians' wealth is in property, often your own home that you've owned for 10 years. The government is aware of this. We've seen it right now that the government does everything in its power to ensure the property market cannot fail, because the property market failing causes far too many economic issues. They support the banks, they support people who are renting, that's your job seeker, your job keeper payment, right? The banks in turn support the borrower to make sure we don't have defaults in there, right? We've guaranteed savings through the government guarantee, so money that's held in a savings account with a bank can't be lost, right? Can't be forfeited even if something happened to that bank. The government understands the importance of that property market and steps in to protect it any time that there's a challenge on it.
Yeah.
Right? But when you're investing in property, you've literally got the backing of the government behind you protecting that investment. We see this in different ways, in different scenarios, but we've seen instantly, within a month or 2 months of something threatening our economy, the first thing the government stepped in to protect was that property market. And for me, that's an industry I then want to be involved in.
History always has a habit of repeating itself. And history is an enormous bit of the learning that we look back. So So we look back into the SARS, we look back into the Ebola, we look back into the bird flu, we look back into, let's go all the way back to the Spanish flu, right? So if we go back all the way to the Spanish flu as an example, that yes, everything which we are discussing, we discussed all of those things at that point of time, and probably a lot more. And you know what, guess what, they also did not have the technology. The government was not in that position of providing that level of support over a period of time. Yes, it has potentially traumatized a whole generation. Yes, it has taken time. But we look back now, and you know what, frankly, I didn't know anything about the Spanish flu until we have this flu.
Yeah.